The moment she grabbed the wrong suitcase, she had no idea she'd just stolen a millionaire's entire world, and he was already on her trail. But what happens when a mix-up sparks something neither of them expected? Who will get the suitcase first, and will anyone walk away the same? Hi my beautiful family. I have missed you all. Thank you so for sticking around with me. I truly appreciate your love and support. If you're already hooked in for today's story and ready to enjoy it, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because, tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one. And you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. Amara Johnson slammed her carry-on onto the airport carousel, juggling her coffee and her laptop bag. She was exhausted from a whirlwind trip to Santa Fe and just wanted to get home. In the chaos of travelers snatching their luggage, she grabbed what looked like her black leather suitcase. It was sleek, heavy, and, admittedly, a little nicer than hers, but she shrugged it off. Better than the beat-up one I had, she muttered. Across the terminal, Elliot Harrington's phone buzzed. He swiped to see a message from the airline: "Your suitcase has been claimed by another passenger." He frowned. His heart sank. That suitcase contained more than just clothes. It held contracts, prototypes, and a few personal treasures he couldn't replace. Elliot's eyes scanned the crowd until they landed on her. A woman with curly black hair, stylishly disheveled, struggling with a suitcase that was unmistakably his. His stride was quick, purposeful, but not aggressive. "Excuse me," he said, voice calm but commanding. "I think you might have my suitcase." Amara froze. She looked at him, then the bag, then him again. "Oh, are you serious?" Her hands hovered awkwardly. I think I grabbed the wrong one. Sorry." Elliot smiled faintly, tension in his jaw easing as he reached for the suitcase. "It happens. Can I help you get it back on the trolley?" Their hands brushed as he transferred the suitcase, and something electric passed in that brief touch. Amara's heart skipped. She had been tired, frustrated, and now, suddenly intrigued. "Thank you," she said softly. I didn't even notice it was yours." Elliot tilted his head, studying her with a gentle curiosity. "It's all right. Most people don't get to meet the owners of million-dollar suitcases in such cinematic ways." Amara laughed, shaking her head. "I feel like I just got written into someone else's movie." That spring morning, a chance mix-up had sparked something neither of them expected, a connection that felt charged, awkwardly intimate, and impossible to ignore. Have you ever had a random mix-up that led to an unexpected connection? Share your story in the comments. After the airport mix-up, Elliot insisted on making sure Amara got a proper taxi home. Not because she needed it, she was perfectly capable, but because something about her intrigued him. "You know," he said, leaning casually against his sleek black car, "most people would have just handed it over and walked away. You seemed genuinely surprised." Amara adjusted her bag strap, curious despite herself. "Well, I guess I wasn't expecting to meet the owner of a million-dollar suitcase. You make it easy to talk to, I guess." Elliot chuckled, opening the car door for her. "Easy to talk to or dangerously charming?" She raised an eyebrow. "Maybe a little of both. Dangerous charms, overrated, though." As they drove through Charleston's winding streets, Elliot's world unfolded subtly, glimpses of his wealth without flashiness. A private art gallery in the corner of a building, impeccably maintained historic homes, and a few whispered mentions of projects he spearheaded. But Elliot never boasted. His luxury was quiet, confident, the kind that suggested a life carefully curated, not flaunted. Amara found herself stealing glances at him. There was something about the way he noticed details, the way he commented on the historic street lamps as if he'd walked them every day, or how he casually mentioned a charity gala he'd attended last week, effortlessly, without name-dropping. "You seem very comfortable in your life," she said softly. Elliot glanced at her, eyes warm. "I've worked hard to get here. But comfort's nothing without someone to share it with." Amara caught herself smiling, heart thumping. Something about the sincerity in his voice made her want to know more. Beyond the wealth, beyond the calm confidence. She wanted the story behind the man. By the time he dropped her at her apartment, the air between them felt charged. Not with awkward tension, but with possibility. The suitcase incident had been a fluke, but their connection? That felt deliberate. Have you ever glimpsed someone's world and realized there's more to them than meets the eye? Comment below what you'd notice first in someone new. 2 days after the suitcase incident, Amara found herself in her favorite Charleston cafe, sipping an iced latte and scrolling through emails. She hadn't expected to see Elliot again, but there he was, casually seated near the window, a cappuccino in hand, focused on his laptop. Their eyes met. Amara froze, half smiling, half panicked. Did she wave? Pretend she didn't see him? Elliot spotted her hesitation and grinned, sliding his laptop closed. Amara, he said, voice warm, not loud enough to draw attention. Fancy seeing you here. Amara laughed softly, walking over. I could say the same. But I'm beginning to think you follow me. He shook his head. Only when it's unavoidable. And apparently, worth it. They moved to a small table near the window. The conversation started light, comments on the spring weather, the cafe's new pastries, but quickly turned playful. So, do you always keep $1,000,000 suitcases handy? Amara teased. Elliot laughed. Only when I travel. Apparently, it's my way of meeting fascinating strangers. Amara rolled her eyes, but she couldn't hide her smile. Fascinating, huh? That's quite the self-assessment. Not self-assessment, he countered, leaning in slightly. Observation. You're curious, genuine, and slightly chaotic. I like that. Her cheeks warmed. Slightly chaotic is my middle name. You might be the only person who finds it interesting. Their hands brushed again while reaching for their drinks. This time, neither pulled away. Instead, they lingered in that tiny electric moment. It was the kind of connection that made the rest of the cafe fade away. By the time they left, Elliot had suggested dinner later in the week, a casual plan, yet underlined with an unspoken anticipation. Amara found herself thinking about it the entire afternoon, heart fluttering at the memory of his smile and the warmth in his voice. Have you ever met someone unexpectedly and felt an instant connection? Share your coffee shop spark story in the comments. That evening, Amara arrived at the small Charleston bistro Elliot had chosen. It wasn't flashy, it was warm, intimate, and perfectly understated, just like him. She had dressed simply but elegantly, and for the first time in days, she felt like herself rather than the rushed traveler she'd been. Elliot greeted her with a soft smile, holding the door. You look lovely, he said, as if noticing the subtle effort she had made. Thank you, Amara replied, a smile tugging at her lips. And you look like you belong here. The meal was easy, the conversation effortless. They talked about favorite books, the quirks of Charleston, and their dreams. But it was in the pauses, in the shared laughter, and the way Elliot reached subtly across the table to tuck a loose strand of hair behind her ear, that the real connection formed. You know, Elliot said quietly, leaning back, I don't usually open up this quickly. But something about you makes it feel easy. Amara felt her chest tighten. Vulnerability wasn't something she gave lightly. I understand, and I feel the same. I don't usually let people in, but, with you, it feels natural. Elliot's gaze softened. I think that's rare, he said. To feel natural so soon. Amara laughed softly, shaking her head. I'm beginning to think you're trying to charm me into some grand gesture. Maybe, he admitted, leaning forward slightly, or maybe I just like being around someone who challenges me. They ended the night walking along the softly lit streets, the Charleston evening wrapping around them like a warm embrace. Elliot slipped his hand into hers, and she didn't pull away. Not once. The accidental suitcase, the airport encounter, the coffee shop, none of it had prepared her for this. But as they stopped under a street lamp, sharing a quiet, lingering moment, Amara realized she wanted this connection, fully and without hesitation. Have you ever felt instantly comfortable with someone new, like you've known them longer than you have? Share your story in the comments. A few nights later, Elliot invited Amara to his penthouse for a casual evening, a private rooftop dinner overlooking Charleston's glittering skyline. The city lights reflected in her eyes as she stepped onto the terrace, soft jazz playing in the background. "You've really outdone yourself," she said, taking in the cozy setup, string lights, candles, and the subtle scent of jasmine. Elliot shrugged, a small smile tugging at his lips. "I just wanted tonight to be comfortable. Us. Without distractions." They talked, laughed, and shared stories from their childhoods, Elliot describing his early days hustling through tech startups, Amara recounting her travels and the moments that shaped her. Every word, every glance, made the air between them thrum with anticipation. As the night grew quiet, a comfortable silence fell. Elliot reached for her hand. "Amara." His voice was low, intimate. "I feel like I've known you far longer than a few days. And I don't want this to end tonight." Amara's heart skipped. She looked up at him, their faces inches apart. "Me neither," she whispered. The first kiss was soft, tentative at first, then deepening as if the universe had pressed pause for them alone. Amara's hand moved to rest lightly on his chest, feeling the steady beat beneath, grounding her. Elliot's other hand gently cradled her face, thumb brushing her cheek with the kind of care that made her knees weak. When they finally pulled back, both were smiling, breathless. "Wow," Amara said, laughing softly. "That definitely beats any airport mix-up I've ever had." Elliot grinned, leaning close again. "I'd say it's the start of something memorable." They stayed on the rooftop long into the night, sharing stories, laughter, and comfortable silences that didn't feel awkward, they felt right. Amara realized she was falling, not just for the charm or the wealth, but for the man himself, thoughtful, sincere, and unexpectedly vulnerable. Have you ever had a first kiss that made everything feel different? Share your story in the comments and tell us what made it unforgettable. A week after their rooftop evening, Amara arrived at a Charleston cafe to meet Elliot for brunch, but he was late. She checked her phone, one unread message. "Running late. Business emergency. Can we reschedule?" Amara sighed, irritation mixing with disappointment. She knew Elliot's world was busy, full of meetings, travel, and high-stakes decisions, but she couldn't help feeling that small tug of doubt. Was she just a pleasant distraction in his life, or was this real? Meanwhile, Elliot was in a tense negotiation with investors for a major property development. He had promised himself he'd wrap it quickly so he could see Amara, but the stakes were high, and every phone call, every contract, demanded his attention. Later that evening, Elliot tried to explain over dinner at a quiet Charleston bistro. "Amara, I hate that I missed brunch," he said, his hands wrapped around hers across the table. "It wasn't intentional. It's just, work got out of hand." Amara looked down at their intertwined fingers, then back at him. "I get it," she said softly, "but I can't help wondering if I'm part of your world, or just a convenient escape." Elliot's jaw tightened. He hadn't expected this vulnerability yet. "You're not an escape," he said firmly. "You're someone I want in my life, truly. But I have obligations I can't just ignore." Her eyes softened, but a subtle tension lingered. I want to matter, not compete with your meetings or investors." He leaned in, voice low and earnest. "You matter, Amara. And I'll show you that. I promise." But the evening ended with a quiet unease. Both wanted each other fiercely, yet the complications of their lives, his wealth, his responsibilities, her independence, her career, loomed over them. The suitcase mix-up had sparked their romance, but life was reminding them that attraction alone wasn't always enough. Have you ever had someone important in your life pulled away by circumstances? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments. A few days after the tense dinner, Amara found herself scrolling through social media when a photo caught her eye. Elliot, smiling alongside a glamorous woman at a charity gala she hadn't been invited to. Her chest tightened. Her first instinct was irritation. Why hadn't he mentioned this event? But then doubt crept in. Was she just someone he enjoyed in private, while the rest of his world remained off-limits? Meanwhile, Elliot had no idea she'd seen the picture. The gala had been a last-minute obligation. A friend from his philanthropic board had invited him, and he'd only realized Amara couldn't attend after the fact. He'd assumed she'd understand. When they met for coffee that evening, the tension was immediate. Amara's words were measured, cautious. "I saw the gala photos," she said quietly, stirring her latte. "You didn't think to tell me?" Elliot frowned, a flash of frustration mixed with concern. "Amara, I didn't hide it. I just didn't think it mattered. I assumed you'd be busy, and I didn't want to make a big deal." Amara's eyes shimmered with hurt. "It matters to me, Elliot. I feel like I'm competing with your other life, and I'm not sure I want to." Elliot reached across the table, taking her hand gently. "You're not competing. You're the one I want to be with. I should have told you yes, but please trust me." Amara pulled her hand back slightly, conflicted. "I want to, but it's hard. I don't want to be the person who always comes second." The conversation ended with both unsettled, hearts heavy with misunderstanding, yet neither walking away completely. The attraction was still there, undeniable, but so was the gap between expectation and reality. That evening, as Amara walked home through Charleston's softly lit streets, she realized love wasn't just about sparks, it was also about patience, trust, and the courage to navigate the unexpected. Have you ever misinterpreted someone's actions and felt tension as a result? How did you clear the misunderstanding? Comment below with your experience. 2 weeks after the coffee shop confrontation, Amara received an unexpected call from a concierge service at Elliot's penthouse. "Your suitcase was mistakenly switched again," the voice said. "Mr. Harrington asked me to coordinate its return." Confused, Amara agreed to meet. She hadn't expected to see Elliot so soon, or like this. When she arrived, Elliot was waiting, visibly tense, his usual calm replaced by frustration. "I need to tell you something," he said immediately, closing the door behind her. "This week, it's been too much. Work, social obligations, and I think I haven't been fully honest about how much you mean to me." Amara's heart thudded. I don't understand. You've been saying you want me, but I feel like I'm competing with your life. What aren't you telling me?" Elliot ran a hand through his hair, pacing slightly. "I almost lost my composure at that gala. I realized I've been juggling too many things at once, trying to impress, trying to manage, and I almost pushed you away. And I can't do that. I won't. I like you too much to risk losing this." Amara's eyes welled, a mixture of relief and hurt. "You realize how close we were to falling apart?" He nodded, taking a deep breath. "I do. And I'm scared too. Scared of losing something real because I couldn't prioritize it. But I can't hide my feelings anymore. I like you, Amara. I like you a lot. And I want us, truly us, if you'll have me." Her chest tightened, the weight of the past weeks, the doubts, the misunderstandings, the longing, all crashing together. Slowly, she reached out, placing her hand on his arm. "Elliot," she whispered, "I like you too. And maybe we just needed this reality check to see it clearly." He smiled, relief breaking through his tension. "Then let's start again, honestly, openly. No mix-ups, no miscommunications. Just us." That spring evening, the suitcase mix-up had returned full circle, but this time, it sparked clarity, confession, and the first real step toward commitment. Have you ever had a reality check in a relationship that made everything clearer? Share your story and lessons in the comments. Days after their heartfelt conversation at Elliot's penthouse, a sudden business trip pulled him out of Charleston for nearly a week. Amara understood, he had responsibilities, but the distance felt heavier than she expected. She tried to keep busy, pouring herself into work and friends, but every ping of her phone made her heart race. And when Elliot finally called, the conversation was strained. "I've been thinking, maybe this is too complicated. You deserve someone who's fully present." Amara froze. "What are you saying?" "I don't want to hurt you," he said quietly. "But juggling work, travel, and us, it's a lot. Maybe stepping back is better for both of us." Her chest tightened, a storm of frustration, sadness, and longing. "So, this is it." "I don't want it to be," he admitted. "I just don't know how to do this right now." For the first time, Amara felt the possibility of losing him, not because of a lack of feeling, but because of circumstances. She hung up, silent tears blurring her vision as she sat alone in her apartment. Meanwhile, Elliot stared at the city skyline from his hotel balcony, heart aching. He had tried to protect her, to protect them, but in doing so, he had almost pushed her away. He realized love required action, not just words. That night, both of them wrestled with doubt, longing, and fear. They had never been more aware of how much they mattered to each other, but also how fragile that connection could feel when life interfered. It was the longest night, a night filled with what-ifs and regrets, but it also planted the seed for a grand gesture, a turning point that would bring them back together stronger than ever. Have you ever been separated from someone you cared about and realized their importance only then? Comment with your story of love tested by distance or circumstance. Elliot landed in Charleston that spring morning, his mind racing with one thought: he couldn't let Amara slip away. He knew apologizing over texts or phone calls wasn't enough. She needed to see, and feel, how much she mattered. He arrived at her apartment, a bouquet of her favorite peonies in one hand and a small, neatly wrapped box in the other. He knocked gently, hoping she'd answer, hoping she'd still let him in. When Amara opened the door, surprise and a flicker of wariness crossed her face. "Elliot," she breathed. "I know I messed up," he said quickly, stepping inside. "I've been distant, caught up in work, and I almost lost the best thing that ever happened to me. But I don't want to lose you. Not now, not ever." Amara's eyes glistened. "Elliot." He handed her the bouquet first, then the small box. Inside was a delicate charm bracelet, each charm representing moments they'd shared. The suitcase, the coffee cup, the rooftop skyline. "Every step of the way, you've mattered," he said softly. "I want to show you that you're not just part of my life, you're central to it. And I'll do whatever it takes to prove it." Tears pricked at Amara's eyes. She took his hands, feeling the sincerity in his touch, the unwavering intention in his gaze. "You really mean that?" "I do," he said firmly. "And if you'll let me, I want to make things right. Fully. No distance, no misunderstandings, just us." Amara smiled through the tears, laughter bubbling up with relief. "You've really gone above and beyond, as usual," she teased, her heart soaring. I think we can try again. Honestly." Elliot grinned, pulling her into a warm embrace. The tension, the doubts, the darkest nights, they all melted away in that moment. Love, finally, was bold, unmistakable, and fully reciprocated. That day marked a turning point. The suitcase that started it all had symbolically brought them back together. But now, it was their shared actions, honesty, and vulnerability that solidified their connection. Have you ever made a bold gesture to show someone you care? Share your story in the comments. Sometimes, love really is about the little, or big, things you do. A few days after Elliot's grand gesture, Amara arrived at the Charleston waterfront for a late afternoon stroll, still savoring the warmth of his apology and sincerity. She had been thinking about their journey: the suitcase, the coffee shop, the rooftop, the miscommunications, and finally, the proof that he truly cared. As she turned a corner, she spotted him across the boardwalk, leaning casually against the railing, eyes scanning the horizon. The moment their eyes met, her heart leapt. "Amara," Elliot called softly, walking toward her. "I've been thinking. I don't want to wait for another perfect moment. I want to start building every imperfect, beautiful moment with you, from now." Amara's breath caught. "Elliot, that's exactly what I want too," she said, a smile spreading across her face. He reached for her hands, holding them gently but firmly. "I know life isn't always predictable. We'll have obstacles, but I want to face them with you, not apart from you. You're my choice. Every day, in every way. Tears threatened, but she laughed softly, the sound carrying across the water. Then let's do it, she said, squeezing his hands. No more doubts, no more pretending. Just us. They walked together along the waterfront, shoulders brushing, hands occasionally entwining. Each laugh, each glance, each quiet word cemented the breakthrough that had been slowly building over weeks. Trust, understanding, and an unshakable desire to be together. When they reached the small gazebo at the pier's end, Elliot pulled Amara close. I know the universe started us with a suitcase mix-up, he said, voice low and warm, but I want to end it with a promise. I'm yours, completely, if you'll have me. Amara's smile glowed in the golden light. You already have me, she whispered, pressing her forehead to his. That day, the reunion was not just physical, it was emotional, spiritual, and irrevocable. They had faced doubts, distance, and misunderstandings, but emerged stronger, ready for the final step toward forever. Have you ever felt a breakthrough in love, where everything just clicked? Share your story in the comments about the moment you knew someone was the one. A few weeks later, Elliot invited Amara to a surprise evening at a secluded vineyard in Charleston's outskirts. The golden light of sunset painted the rows of grapes in warm hues. She stepped out of the car, marveling at the quiet beauty around her. I thought you'd like a change of pace, Elliot said, taking her hand. Somewhere we can just be us. As they strolled between the vines, Elliot paused, turning to her with a softness that made Amara's heart flutter. Amara, our story started with a mix-up, an accident, but every moment since has been intentional. You've become the most important part of my life. Amara's eyes glistened. Elliot. He bent to one knee, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. The vineyard breeze carried the weight of his words. I don't want to imagine my life without you. Will you marry me, Amara Johnson? Tears spilled freely as she laughed and whispered, Yes, yes, of course. He slipped the ring onto her finger, standing to envelop her in a warm embrace. They swayed together among the vines, laughter and whispered promises mingling with the soft rustle of leaves. The accidental suitcase, the coffee dates, the rooftop nights, the misunderstandings, all of it had led them here, to a moment of absolute clarity and joy. Later, as they sat on a cozy blanket under the stars, Amara rested her head on Elliot's shoulder. It's funny, she murmured, how a suitcase could start all this. He kissed her temple softly. Sometimes, life's little accidents bring the greatest blessings. And now, our forever begins. They watched the stars emerge, hearts aligned, their journey from a chance encounter to unwavering love complete. Have you ever experienced a love that felt destined, even from the most unexpected beginnings? Share your story in the comments. Sometimes, love finds you in the most surprising ways.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.